Hey, everybody. Welcome to We Thrive Together, our live stream series. I'm Chester Elton. This is my wonderful co-author and dear friend, Adrian Gostick.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, he's the cool one with the hair. I just want to let you know, Adrian, how grateful I am for our partnership. In fact, I've got a cup of gratitude tea this morning. The cup given to us by wonderful, our wonderful assistant. You know her name. I don't know her name, but Christy Lauren out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I love at the bottom it says, "Drink it," right? So we're here together though to talk
And I have
about
my gratitude Pepsi, by the way. So I'm grateful for Pepsi in the morning.
Yeah, I think if you don't drink your Pepsi, we're all in danger.
Oh, you are.
Anyway, Adrian, you have this wonderful series of articles you write for Forbes magazine. And for those of you listening, and if you're not following Adrian on Forbes, remedy that today. And you wrote a great article about dealing with change, and that's what we want to talk about today. We've only got 15 minutes, so let's have at it because there's four things in 15 minutes. So kick us off.
Well, and maybe Natalie can put this the link to the article in our feed. And by the way, we'd love to hear from all of you while I'm babbling on for a few minutes here. Where are you joining us from? When you and I have been working on change with organizations for 20 years now. In fact, just yesterday, I was in the Bay Area working with a big tech company that's going through a huge change. In fact, when I got there, the CEO said, "Hey, Adrian," he says, "I need to take your first 30 minutes. We're announcing an organizational change." So a company of 5,000 people, this was his 16 top leaders, and he was changing things again. And there was a lot of angst in the room, and it was good that we were together and we were able to talk through it. Because what's the first thing that people think about when a change is announced? How it affects me, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It is interesting that change is ever present. We were joking before we went live that the best way to handle change is just don't change.
And have we ever worked for a company that's not going through change?
Exactly. And, it is interesting because, as people are chiming in here, we got Amber from London and Ty from Colorado. And, you think about what's going on in the UK and what's going on in the States and what's going on in Asia. I mean, the change is just ridiculous. We've got a LinkedIn user joining us from Germany, which is, one of our favorite countries as well. Yeah. So it really does. Now everybody's so international, right? People are joining in Zoom, and you've got somebody from Sri Lanka, and you've got, somebody coming from, Ohio. So walk us through the 4 steps in your article about how you deal with that as a leader and how you get that buy-in, because there's simple concepts, of course, hard to execute.
Right, exactly. Now, first off, we have to understand that people do just what you just joked about why don't we just not change this? That's really, whether we say we embrace change or not, we all really like to stay in our ruts. We really do. And there's something called confirmation bias. We see this during a presidential election, right? Where we only want to see good stuff about our candidate. We don't want to see any of the bad stuff because we want to be confirmed that we are right in our initial impressions. And so we hang on sometimes with a death grip to what we believe is right. So say we're trying to come up with a new change that'll make us more customer centric in our organization. Well, great. What do people think? Well, they go, well, we tried that back in 1987. Didn't work then. Not going to work now. We come up with all the reasons. So as the CEO yesterday announced the change, immediately people started, well, how's this going to affect? And, this, that, and the other. They started arguing about it. Well, that's natural. And it's actually okay for us to listen to the squeaky wheels. We have to make sure that people have a voice. But the most important point, and the first point in this whole process of change, is as a leader, you do have to set the narrative. You have to listen, absolutely, but you have to set a positive narrative. Here's why we are changing. Here's the burning platform, and here's where we're going. And this is why it's so vital. If you remember, just in our book, All In, we use the burning platform narrative, right?
Yeah. Well, and what I like you said about the article too is listen to the squeaky wheels. I know they're annoying, right? You say, listen to the squeaky wheel and ask, why are they squeaking? I thought it was just a great old, we've all got WD-40. We're big fans of WD-40 as a culture, but why are they squeaking? What's going on there? I think, those kinds of things, while our initial reaction is to be annoyed, it should be, well, there's something to discover there, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I want to give a shout out to Joe Ione up there in Massachusetts. He tunes in all the time. I love it when Joe shows up. I know it's going to be a party when Joe shows up. But
And thanks to everybody for joining us today. Now, the second one, I think you're gonna love this, Jess. The second one is you reward change. You reward every little step toward the behavior you're looking for. I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with your, as you've donning your orange today and holding up the carrot.
Yeah, this is, by the way, this is the vintage carrot. Remember this guy? He's evolved. He changed, Adrian.
like the early Simpsons. Yeah,
exactly. What I love about this, about rewarding people that are involved in this change, is the psychological safety that comes with that.
Yeah.
That I can speak up, I can express my opinion, I can be that squeaky wheel. And my input is valued. I'm not an annoyance, right?
Yeah.
I love, we've got an Einstein quote here. It says, we can't solve problems with the same thing we used when we created them. I love that quote.
Yeah.
What's the definition of insanity? Trying to solve the same problem over and over again, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that when you have that safety to ideate, and that's part of innovation, right? Say, look, we got to look at this from all different kinds of angles. We got to figure out what it is. Well, if people are afraid, it doesn't make any sense. How do you make it safe? Reward. Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, it's exactly.
One quick story, and you've heard this from our friend Marshall Goldsmith, who's a wonderful Buddhist and he tells the story about the farmer and the horse. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Good news, bad news. Yeah, the farmer loses his horse. His horse runs away. His neighbors go, oh, what bad fortune. He goes, bad fortune, good fortune, who knows? Horse comes back with 3 other wild horses. They go, oh, what good fortune. He goes, good fortune, bad fortune, who knows? His son tries to ride one of the wild horses, falls off, breaks his leg, walks with a limp for the rest of us. Oh, what bad fortune. He goes, good fortune, bad fortune, who knows? Well, the army comes through the village the next day, recruiting young men to take him to war. His son has a limp. They pass over. They go, oh, what good fortune. Good fortune, bad fortune. It's that whole idea of making it safe. And what happens. It's how we react to it. It's how we listen to those squeaky wheels. And when we reward it, you're going to get more squeaky wheels. And that's probably a good thing. Well, good thing, bad thing. Who knows?
Love it. And I love, the idea we're rewarding every step toward the behavior we're looking for, which leads us to the third one, which is, you've got to address pain points because they will come up.
Yep.
So we're announcing a big change, which we always do. Every year we're changing something with an organization. And again, this coming back to the squeaky wheels, there are going to be pain points. We can't stick our heads in the sand. Now, what we find with organizations that innovate faster is they are very fast to address those pain points. Oh, wow, we've got a bottleneck in our distribution system now because of this change. Oh, the software is not working between head office and the factory because of this change. We've got to address those very quickly and not put them off. And sometimes it comes to transparency, right, Jess? It's talking with our people, even if we can't fix things immediately, just being more open and honest about how we are progressing.
Yeah, it is really interesting that when you address it right away, the message is I care, right? The message is I care. I've noticed, I'm paying attention. I love in the chat box, we're saying, hey, when I deal with change, I do it in phases. You do it a bit by bit. And then I love your fourth point, Adrian, and that is over communicate, overshare.
Yeah.
The line in the article that I loved is that unless they tell you not to share it with your people, share it.
Yeah. And sometimes that's going to happen, right? You're privy to some confidential information, but it's rare nowadays. Most things are out there anyway. Most people can find things. So unless you've been told not to share. What we always say when we're doing our executive coaching, isn't it, Jess, that we say, when you feel like you're finally, when you're finally over communicating, that's probably when you're communicating enough. And so what we have to do is really just push our communication, especially during a crisis, past anything we've ever seen before. As I mentioned to these leaders that were going through this big change, when you go back, you're gonna tell people what's happened, and then you're gonna feel like that's enough. And next week, you're going to tell them again. And the week after, you're going to tell them again. And the week before, and you're going to do it in different mediums. You're going to send an email. You're going to do a big meeting. You're going to do one-on-ones. The only way to get through this change positively is to use, lots of different media and lots of different mediums and find ways to really get through to people.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that point, different mediums, because people learn different ways.
Yeah.
We always joke, say, well, I put up the poster.
Yeah, everybody's rowing.
Yeah. He said, we're all rowing in the right direction. Didn't you get that? And I love posters. If that's all you're doing, you're selling yourself short. Some people like to be texted. Some people are audio learners. There's visual, your town halls, your newsletters. Make sure that you're using all those different mediums, particularly today, because you get a multi-generational workforce. Older employees, you're going to say an email, I'd probably do it. Younger employees say, well, what about the town hall? What about a little video chat and on and on? So I really wanted to emphasize lots of different ways to communicate with people.
Yeah.
And lots of ways to learn, take advantage.
And never underestimate the resistance to change that us humans, will go through, the efforts that we'll go through. What we typically think about this, and we got this from a great leader we worked with years ago, is the 25, 50, 25% formula. Now, it's not exact, but typically when you announce a change, 25% of your workforce will just dive in because they just think it's the right thing to do and they trust you. That's great. You'll have about 25% on the other end that just think it's the dumbest idea ever, and it'll never work, and they're Eeyores. And then you've got about 50% in the middle that can tip either way depending on how you act as a leader. They want to believe, but they've been burned before, right? They've seen lots of different initiatives come down from corporate, and you can tip them with patience, persistence, and a real clear message about where we're going forward and all those things, those other 4 steps we've talked about. So, Chess, what do you do with that bottom 25%? How do you get them on board?
Yeah, I think part of this, and this is our great friend Bill Manning shared this with us, right? The president of Toronto FC. He said, you got to get to those bottom 25 and give them a choice. Figure it out, coach them up, because the realization is some of those bottom 25 are never going to buy in, and they're going to be miserable. And they're going to make you miserable. So find a really great way. I love Alan Mullally when he says, look, I coach him up. I give him all the opportunities. And I say, look, you don't have to buy into what we're doing here. You really don't. And that's okay. You just can't work here anymore. Yeah. And we've got to realize that sometimes there's just not a good fit. And the quicker that you can get to a resolution, hey, are you in or you're not? Yeah. The better it is for everybody. You and I had that experience. I mean, wonderfully talented member of our training company. And gosh, we tried everything and we dragged it on and on and on. And finally, when we came to a parting of ways, everybody was happier. He was happier. We were happier. Our team was happier. And what happened to productivity? Skyrocketed.
Oh, absolutely. And unfortunately, what happens when you have a resistor on your team, at first, the team will blame the resistor. They think, oh, why isn't so-and-so buying in? But after a while, they start blaming you, the boss. And, for keeping that person around. So you're right. We tend to wait way too long to make those tough choices. So love what you're saying about see if somebody will buy in, give them some chance, give them some coaching, but don't wait forever if the person is not buying into your culture.
Yeah. I know we're at our time limit here. And so just some parting thoughts. What's the one thing you want people to remember from this session, Adrian?
Well, I think the first thing is don't feel like just because you're the boss, people are going to buy in. Use some of these strategies, be patient, but be persistent. Have a very clear vision and reward every step toward the future that you're looking to accomplish.
Excellent. Yeah. My thoughts on this, just to wrap up, are, our friend Curtis Martin, who shared with us the ripple effect. Be aware of what that ripple effect will be when you're communicating, as you engage with people for good or ill. What is that ripple effect going to be? And make sure that as you're communicating change, that the ripple effect is what you want it to be. What do you want the outcome to be? Well, our little session here is brought to us by WeThriveTogether.global.
And our book, Anxiety at Work.
That's right. We encourage you. It's available at fine bookstores everywhere. The audio version, Adrian and I are actually the voices. So if you've got trouble sleeping, please grab the audio version of the book. We thrive together.global. It's a wonderful place for people to come in and talk about mental health, talk about anxiety, share their best practices. It's free. Please come join us. It's a great place to be. As Adrian said, our book, we've also got a wonderful newsletter on LinkedIn. Follow us on LinkedIn, the Gratitude Journal, where we talk a lot about gratitude and anxiety. And just to wrap up, Adrian, I know that you would never say this, so I have to say it for you. Adrian's writing in Forbes is brilliant. We've put the link in the chat. Click on that. Follow him. He is the writer of the two of us, and his writing is only getting better. His insights are only getting better. Please treat yourself to Adrian Gostick at Forbes.com.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Jess. It was always a fun to be with you and to share a few ideas. Thanks to everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, and look, Adrian, don't change. Just don't change, okay? Take care, everybody. We'll see you again.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.